So good, so good, so good.
New markdowns up to 70% off are at Nordstrom Rack stores now. Stock up and save big on shoes, tops, dresses, accessories, and more must-haves for summer. Join the Nordy Club to unlock exclusive discounts, shop new arrivals first, and more. Plus, buy online and pick up at your favorite Rack store for free. Great brands, great prices. That's why you Rack.
Good morning, it's Tuesday, June 16, and this is the Brussels Playbook podcast. The vibe in Brussels today is entrenched as governments dig in over where the EU's next €1.8 trillion budget should go and how much of it should be cut. Also on the pod, the US's intimate diplomatic dinners in Brussels are disappearing, and some ambassadors are really upset about it. Plus, Viktor Orbán is returning to Brussels just as his favourite think tank comes under fire. I'm Zoya and with me today is our senior EU politics editor, Ian Wishart. Hey, Ian.
Good morning, Zoya.
Oh, where's that energy coming from?
I've no idea. It won't last very long.
Well, actually, it should last a while because I've got a special surprise for you later on the pod.
I know what the surprise is, Zoya.
Could you not pretend?
Sorry.
Thank you.
What is the surprise, Zoya?
I'm not going to tell you till the end of the pod.
Okay.
Bear with us, listener. Ian, let's start in Luxembourg today, where EU affairs ministers from around the bloc are gathering, and they are going to be getting their first chance to debate the EU's next long-term budget. That's the MFF, the Multi-Annual Financial Framework.
These sorts of negotiations are notorious in the EU, aren't they? And this time around, it's no different. It's an absolute fight already. It's getting dirty already.
It really is. And we have two camps that have emerged pretty strong out of the blocks. So it was last week that the Cyprus presidency of the Council of the EU presented their so-called nego box. It's the negotiating box where they kind of lay out how much money is going to be spent on various things, all of their ideas and things that they're supposed to have gathered from countries. And they lay it out and say, look, this is what we want to do.
Yeah, so we just backtrack slightly because we're talking about the 7-year budget, the multi-annual financial framework, which is due to kick in 2028, but they're hoping to get agreed by the end of this year, aren't they, the member states?
They are, and the reason for that is because, look, there are several reasons, but one of them is the French election in April 2027. That's going to grind things to a halt as campaigning begins for that. And the idea is if they don't get it agreed this year and settled this year, it's not going to be then able to be done until like maybe October next year after a bunch of different elections.
French
after the
elections
summer,
particularly, yeah.
French, but then after the summer break as well. And there's all sorts of elections, Italian election as well. So
It's not going to be easy, though. I mean, as you said, like there are two camps here which are very clearly divided. It's the usual suspects. It's the wealthy countries, mainly from the north of Europe, versus the countries mainly from the south of Europe.
Yes, and ironically, or perhaps not ironically, but actually very predictably, it's divided between the countries that pay more money into the budget than they get out. So they are formerly called the Frugals. Now they've rebranded. They're calling themselves Friends of Modernisation.
And they want the budget to be smaller. They want to spend less money to Brussels.
Yep. And it's not only that. It's not just that they want the budget smaller, but they want the budget priorities to be in things like competitiveness rather than in things like spending money on agriculture.
The traditional EU spending patterns.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you've got these Friends of Cohesion group folks who are the countries that tend to take more money out of the budget than they put in.
And let's just say to our listeners who might not be EU specialists what cohesion means in EU lingo. Cohesion spending is basically expenditure on the regions around Europe, particularly the poorer regions. Another thing that's really underpinned the EU for since day one, really.
Totally. It's things like roads and hospitals and public transportation systems in poorer parts of the EU.
All those big signs you see when you're driving around Europe saying this road was paid for by the European Union. It's that kind of thing. Yeah.
Exactly. And so this fight is going to get pretty significant. It's already significant because I've had phone calls from various diplomats from different
You keep getting
countries.
phoned up all the time, don't you, about this?
Oh my God.
Morning, noon and night, weekends, everything.
Literally 10 p.m. on a Sunday, I was getting calls on it
We've got
because
18 months to go, can you imagine?
I know, but because the EU's ambassadors were meeting Sunday evening in their co-repair, an unusual, well, it's not that unusual these days, but in a Sunday co-repair session, that's the ambassadors meeting, and they got to discuss these nego box numbers. Everyone is furious. So particularly the frugal countries, the Friends of Competitiveness, they're mad. They want less money. They say this budget is too large. The Commission wants too much money and it needs to be cut because it's going to be very difficult for them to tell their voters at home, hey, we're cutting all sorts of programs for you nationally, but the EU is getting way, way more money. But the flip side is you've got all of these other countries that are like, hey, we need money for our farmers. We need money for our regions. What are you doing?
Now, Cyprus, which currently, at least until the end of the month, is at the helm of the presidency of the Council of the EU, they put out this proposal which sees a 2% reduction on the Commission's original proposal for the budget.
Yeah, and they're cutting competitiveness spending, and that's been very controversial. The 2% is controversial for not being big enough for the frugal countries. I mean, the Netherlands were particularly upset about it. They called it the no-go box, not the nego box.
No-go.
No-go. So that is really the backdrop of this conversation that ministers are going to have today. So this is their first opportunity at that ministerial level.
And then leaders go on at the end of the week. It's the European Council, the summit here in Brussels. They'll continue the conversation.
Yeah, and that'll be the first chance for EU leaders to get involved.
Certainly won't be the last, will it?
No, absolutely not. But the clock is running out. And so there is something that will be agreed today, Ian, as we're understanding it from the reporting. So it's the rules and structure of three key parts of the budget are going to be agreed by these European affairs ministers. That's the national and regional partnership plans, the European Competitiveness Fund, and the Global Europe Fund. And again, this is only a partial agreement. It's not on how much will be spent or anything like that. It's just the architecture.
And you get the sense that it's all up for grabs and always will be as things get negotiated and horse traded. You know, nothing's done until it's all done.
Exactly.
There's one other interesting thing which I think they're going to talk about today, and certainly probably talk about on Friday, the leaders, is this link between EU payments and the rule of law. And we've seen, particularly after Orbán and Hungary, how crucial it is these days for the European Commission to be able to withhold funding for countries who don't live up to their rule of law commitments.
But so what the national governments actually want is they want that power to be with them. So not just the Commission having the power and being able to disperse or not disperse, but they want to be involved in the decision making. And that part is what's going to get agreed, we think, in this meeting, potentially today, potentially on Friday. So that's a big one.
Good. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about this a lot over the next few months.
Can't wait. Ian, our next story is one that I have been reporting out for several months.
You have mentioned it once or twice, so yes.
Oh, listener, if only you had heard the many times I had raised this story trying to speak to enough diplomats to get it over the line. But here we are. It's over
the line, yes.
It's over the line. So what this is about is...
Thank God for that.
Now I need to find something else to write about. Listeners, write in. But listen, for years there have been these diplomatic gatherings, and they have been referred to by American diplomats as like-minded dinners.
Mm-hmm. So these were hosted by the American ambassador in Brussels, the ambassador to the EU, and he would invite a dozen or so max, other ambassadors, other diplomats, just to chat about stuff.
Yeah, and EU officials would sometimes come, so very high-ranking people high up in the Commission, President's cabinet, so Bjorn Seibert being one of the people who I know has been invited to these things. They would come together roughly once a month. They would have a very opulent dinner. I hear from a former US diplomat that there would be sort of a one-upmanship between the ambassadors as to who had the best chef. They would have, really, really lovely steak, beautiful fish. They'd have American wine.
Wow.
And
didn't think you could get American wine.
Tell that to the California Napa Valley, my friend. And yeah, they would discuss all sorts of things. They would, it was soft power. It was the Americans trying to feel out what various countries thought about certain things. And the idea was the like-minded thing is the important element of it. It would be on a theme, on a topic. Let's say they were talking about security. They would invite a few key ambassadors from countries where they were security partners, and then maybe someone they wanted to convince of someone.
I feel there's a but coming.
Well, the but is that several diplomats, just over the course of my conversations over the past few months have sort of mentioned these dinners and said, oh, it's such a shame they don't happen anymore because ever since Andrew Puzder has come in, he's the new US ambassador to the EU. He's not really throwing those parties anymore. And in part, it's because the US's approach to Europe has changed. It's much less,
confrontational. Would that be too far to say?
I don't think you could say it was too much. I think it
Yeah.
absolutely has been confrontational. And it's not that Pazua isn't holding parties or events or whatever. He is still doing that. And certainly the US mission was very firm in response to my request for comment and said it would be categorically false to say that he isn't. I don't argue with that. It's just that the type of parties have changed. It's not these small affairs with a few folk, bringing them together, trying to come up with, a solution to a problem together, trying to pre-examine some of the tough things that they might need to talk about. It's really more about like, we're going to hold a quad lunch. We're going to hold a Five Eyes lunch.
For people who don't know Brussels, it's worth saying that these sorts of occasions are actually what Brussels runs on. These little intimate gatherings. And you sometimes don't even realise that these people at senior levels are actually friends with each other or even know each other, but they do. And you get, very strange gatherings of, ambassadors and senior commission officials and people from the parliament, maybe, and people from the council. And they get together and they talk and they chat. And it's really how Brussels operates, isn't it?
It is.
And journalists sometimes too.
Totally. On occasion, we're invited as well. But the idea of these things is when you're away from, ambassadors, they've got lots of staff, they've got note takers, they've got requirements as to things that they need to report back to their capitals.
And it's not policy making,
no.
really, is it? It's intelligence sharing. It's, well, I've heard this, have you heard that? And where do you think the commission is going to push this and that kind of thing?
Yeah, and my red lines are this and etc. And this is the thing. So it was an opportunity for them to be without all of the entourages, just, 6, 8, 10
So
people.
why did the non-American ambassadors say to you that they thought it was a shame that these things didn't carry on?
They were saying that it was an opportunity to figure out, firstly, it was an opportunity to figure out where the US stood on things, where individual countries stood on things. But also they were saying that the Americans had this convening power because it's the Americans. So people would come and then they would feel an obligation. They would hold their own and invite people back. It would be sort of this network that would occur. And what they were saying is, like, even just non-EU countries would get invited to these things, and it was their opportunity to figure out where EU countries stood on certain matters. And I spoke with one particular diplomat who said, look, I used to get calls from my capital, and they would say, hey, where does such and such country stand on this particular issue? And I would sometimes be able to tell them because I'd just been to one of these dinners and I knew. And now I've got kind of an information vacuum because the EU ambassadors meet with each other. They know what all of their various folks think, but we don't necessarily get clued in on that. And they said they now read Politico to get that information.
Which ambassador do you think is the best chef?
Well, I was at the UK ambassador's residence, the outgoing UK ambassador's residence last week, and it was pretty tasty. But the best part was that I got to take a few bags of crisps home, real crisps.
Really?
Yeah. They gave us
Walkers.
No, Real Crisps. That's the name of the brand. Oh my
Real
God, I've just
Crisp.
done an ad, haven't I? Sorry, listeners, but they were bloody delicious.
I hope you're going to register that in the transparency register.
I probably should, shouldn't I? Hey, Ian, did you know that Viktor Orbán is coming back to Brussels this week?
He is on Wednesday ahead of the European Council, but he's not coming to the European Council, of course.
No, he's going to a meeting of his Patriots for Europe group ahead of the Uccle. So that's something that perhaps people don't know. So before these European Council summits, when all of the EU leaders come to Brussels, there are meetings of the individual groups and opposition politicians come, and Orbán is now in the opposition.
But we wanted to talk about this think tank, the MCC, which is part of Orbán's way of influencing the EU.
It is, and it's this quite very well-funded think tank based in Brussels, and it's actually in a bit of hot water at the moment. The Transparency Register has actually suspended the MCC, saying that they haven't been doing their financial disclosures properly, which, by the way, the MCC denies and says that they will appeal. But in any case, it means that they can still operate, they can publish reports, have events, but they don't get to meet with some EU officials.
Yeah, they're not able to lobby particularly
Exactly.
easily.
Yeah. And it's part of like this broader thing as well that's happening in Hungary, where the new government is actually threatening to kind of disband the MCC and claw back the money that it's been getting from Fidesz for the country.
Fidesz being Orbán's party.
Yeah, exactly. So it's in a bit of hot water. We'll see what happens with that. It's a developing story. They deny all wrongdoing. So yeah, look, tough times, lean times for Viktor Orbán. Ian, it's time for our surprise.
What, are you going to tell me about the 100th episode of the podcast?
Can't believe you just gazumped me like that. Wow. Yeah, I am actually. It's our 100th episode
Of the podcast.
and we're going to be filming it live in front of a studio audience.
It feels like there's been more, doesn't it? It feels like we've had about 1,000.
Well, Not to me, it doesn't.
Bags under my eyes.
The bags say a different story. Anyway, look, our lovely listeners, if they want to come and see the magic, the sausage being made.
Yeah, we're going to record our 100th episode in front of a live audience.
30th of June, you can register for your chance to be in the audience. We're probably going to get more people registering than we have space for, so heads up, may not be able to get everyone in. But do register, link is in the show notes.
It's going to be a lot of fun, isn't it?
It'll be super fun. They'll be able to see what you're really like.
Oh dear.
That's how we lose all our listeners. All right, folks, that's about it from us today. Leave us a review. Rate us. Tell us what you think.
And we'll be back tomorrow.
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.